Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Transmigrated as Minato Namikaze. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Quick update. What If Natsu had dual elements will be going on hold soon, since we've nearly caught up with the author. I'd love to do another poll to decide our next project, but unfortunately, due to my travel plans, I won't be able to start a new series until the end of December if we go that route. So instead, I've decided that the series which came in second place in the last poll will be our next project. That means the series replacing What If Natsu Had Dual Elements will be What If Transmigrated into One Piece and Became a Marine. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 51, 4th Year 14. Third Person POV. Konoha, Year 35. Professor Fuma asked Minato and Makoto to approach the center of the field where they would fight, and both walked to the spot under everyone's gaze. They looked at each other, preparing for the battle. Makoto, with her determined eyes, exuded a silent confidence. She was known for her exceptional kunai throwing skills and for mastering 3 C-rank fire jutsus, in addition to the shadow clone technique. Despite her not vast chakra reserve, her precision and technique made up for this limitation. Minato, on the other hand, maintained his calm and focused expression, a trait that made him famous among his peers and teachers. He was a prodigy, not just in elemental ninjutsu, but also in strategy and chakra control. His mastery over the elements of wind, fire, and lightning placed him at a high level, even among the most talented since the foundation of Konoha. Minato, may the best strategy win, said Makoto, giving a small smile, but not activating her Sharingan. So be it, Makoto. Let's do our best, Minato replied, with a slight smile. Professor Fuma, watching attentively from the side of the ring, raised his hand, signaling the start of the fight. Begin! Immediately, Minato made the first move, quickly forming hand seals and summoning a shadow clone, creating an initial distraction. Makoto, not being fooled, prepared her kunais, throwing them precisely at the clone, while keeping her focus on the real Minato. Minato's clones, despite not having observation haki and light body, were still fast and agile. He used his speed to dodge Makoto's kunai attacks, while launching strategic counterattacks. He quickly formed hand seals, releasing a sequence of katun Hosenka no Jutsu, creating a series of fireballs that flew towards Makoto. Makoto responded with katun Gokakyu no Jutsu, releasing a large fireball that clashed against Minato's flames, creating an explosion of sparks and smoke, but since Makoto's ball was larger, it forced Minato to retreat a bit from the invading flames. Makoto wasted no time and used the same jutsu that Minato did before with a sequence of seals. Katun, Hosenka no Jutsu, Minato countered the fireballs with his wind-style jutsu, Futon, Ripusho, causing the balls to disperse in the air, and shurikens appeared inside them, hitting Minato's clones, while the main one easily dodged with his haki, even aware of the shurikens. Jumping to the side, Minato used seals at high speed and again used Futon, Ripusho, not only going towards Makoto, who didn't use any jutsu to defend herself, just dodged to save chakra, but the wind also dissipated all the smoke created by the fire jutsus. Seeing her dodging, Minato made a seal and created 2 clones and ran towards Makoto to fight against her Uchiha Taijutsu. Even though she normally had an advantage over Minato with her Taijutsu, it was 3 against 1 while she tried to attack after being on the defensive. Makoto realized she needed to step up her game to face Minato on equal terms. With determination in her eyes, she decided to unleash the next phase of her Sharingan, one Tomo, while her eyes turned red. It's time to show what I'm capable of, said Makoto, her voice firm and confident. Makoto quickly responded to the clones and Minato, giving a kick to the chin of one clone and a punch to the face of another, as she became much more agile now. The original Minato managed to dodge her attacks while kicking Makoto, making her retreat a bit. Minato looked at his friend with satisfaction as his clones disappeared in smoke after Uchiha's attack. Minato looked at Makoto's Sharingan, nodded with respect. Impressive, Makoto. I'm looking forward to seeing what you're capable of. Next round? The girl gave a small smile, and Minato nodded. The Hokage watched the fight between Minato and Makoto with great interest.
Jiraiya and Tsunade were commenting on the confrontation. "Look at Makoto's precision with the kunais," Tsunade remarked, impressed.
She really inherited the talent of the Uchiha clan.
Jiraiya nodded, watching attentively.
Yes, and she's using the Sharingan with great skill. It seems the Uchiha clan has two great talents in this generation. Akuma was also known for unlocking his Sharingan at 6 years old.
Jiraiya continued, but Minato is not to be underestimated.
He is quick and his jutsus are exceptional.
He's balancing the fight even against the Sharingan. Even the powerful blood limit of the Uchiha doesn't seem to have an effect on the boy. Hiruzen looked at Minato and Makoto facing each other. This is the kind of talent we need in Konoha, especially now. Minato and Makoto show that the next generation is ready to face the challenges that will come. In the second round of the fight, Minato and Makoto positioned themselves, ready for the clash. Makoto, now with her Sharingan, displayed a new layer of determination.
Minato, in turn, relied on his observation haki, a skill that gave him a unique advantage, even over the Sharingan.
The fight restarted with an explosion of movement.
Minato advanced with speed, his fists and feet moving in a blur of agility and strength. Makoto, with her Sharingan eyes, followed each movement, her sharpened reflexes allowing her to block or dodge Minato's rapid strikes.
The Taijutsu duel was a spectacle.
Minato utilized a mix of fighting styles, each attack a fluid combination of technique and brute force.
Makoto, not lagging behind, responded with precise strikes, targeting key points she had learned from her clan.
In a critical moment, Minato made an aggressive move, launching a straight punch.
Makoto, anticipating the attack, used the substitution jutsu, swapping places with a wooden log that appeared where she had been.
Minato, realizing the switch at the last second, spun in the air and landed gracefully, already seeking Makoto with his observation haki. She reappeared behind Minato, ready for a surprise attack, but he, using his haki, turned in time to block the kick she had directed at his back. The fight continued at this frenetic pace, with both ninjas using everything in their arsenal. Each used the substitution jutsu several times, creating a series of maneuvers and counter-maneuvers that left the spectators in awe. The battlefield was filled with signs of their exchanges, fragmented wooden logs, marks on the ground, and clouds of dust created by their rapid movements. As the fight went on, it became clear that in the end, the combination of observation haki and Minato's incredible physical training began to tip the balance in his favor. Makoto was running low on chakra now. At a crucial moment, Makoto attempted a surprise attack with one of her fire jutsus with the remainder of her pool, launching a series of small fireballs at Minato.
He, anticipating the move, skillfully dodged each one, closing the distance between them quickly. Makoto, realizing the imminent approach, prepared for a direct confrontation. However, Minato's speed and strength, enhanced by months of rigorous training with Due, were too much for her. In a fluid motion, Minato dodged a final strike from Makoto and, taking advantage of an opening, placed a kunai at her neck, signaling the end of the fight. "It's over," Minato said, stepping back respectfully. Makoto, panting and with a look of admiration, nodded in acknowledgement. "You won, Minato."
"Well played." The audience erupted in applause, impressed with the skill of both competitors.
Professor Fuma announced the result. Victory for Namikaze Minato. An excellent demonstration from both students.
Minato offered his hand to Makoto, helping her to her feet.
"It was a great fight, Makoto. You're getting incredibly strong."
She accepted his hand, smiling.
"Thank you, Minato.
I'm looking forward to another fight with you in the future." As they left the ring, the Hokage and his students discussed among themselves. "It seems that Minato will come out on top in all grades and beating all his previous records," Hiruzen said. "I expected no less," Jiraiya spoke proudly. After the exciting fight between Minato and Makoto, both stepped away from the ring, allowing the other fights of the day to proceed.
Suna Senju was the next to enter the ring.
With confidence and skill, she faced one of the academy students, demonstrating excellent chakra control and ninjutsu skills.
Her fight, though less intense than Minato and Makoto's, was technically flawless, resulting in a clear victory for Suna. Your daughter is very good, Tsunade, Jiraiya spoke approvingly. I expected no less from Tsuna. Tsunade had a look of proud motherhood. Kushina Uzumaki, known for her energetic and powerful nature, faced another girl in her fight. With her chaotic and unpredictable style, Kushina dominated the fight from the beginning. Her attacks were fast and fierce, and her skill with water jutsus and fuinjutsu made her a formidable opponent. The fight ended with Kushina as the victor. The atmosphere at the training field was filled with each student giving their best, knowing that the eyes of the Hokage and the Sannin were upon them. Although some fights didn't have the same level of intensity as the first, the respect and pride each student had for their skills and the training received in Konoha were evident. At the end of the day, all the academy students gathered, exhausted but satisfied with their performances. Professor Fuma, along with the Hokage and the Sannin, congratulated the students for their effort and dedication, reaffirming the importance of each one of them for the future of Konoha, especially in times of imminent war. Young ninjas of Konoha, began Hiruzen, his voice resonating with authority and the warmth he normally had. Today, you have completed another crucial stage in your journeys as protectors of this village. We are living in dark times, with war casting its shadow over our lives. But it is in moments like this that the true spirit of Konoha shines brightest, where the flames of new leaves emit more lights in the darkness. He paused, looking at the attentive faces of the children. Each one of you represents the light and the future of Konoha. The courage, determination, and strength you demonstrated today are testimonies to the power and resilience of our village. Remember, regardless of the challenges we face, it is our unity and our faith in each other that keeps us strong. The Hokage continued, emphasizing the importance of staying true to Konoha's values and supporting each other in the difficulties to come. His speech was inspiring, infusing the young ones with a sense of responsibility and a renewed sense of purpose. Minato, understanding the ideologies behind it, remained calm, knowing he had much to do and simply listened. In the end, Hiruzen made an announcement that piqued everyone's curiosity and excitement. In the coming days, I would like the outstanding students of this class to visit me in my office. You, who have shown exceptional skills and achievements, will receive a special reward for your effort and dedication. You are the pride of Konoha, and it's important that you know how much we value your accomplishments. The students exchanged looks of surprise and anticipation. Minato, Tsuna, Kushina, Makoto, and a few other students looked at each other, knowing they would likely be among those chosen for such an honor. The end of the academic year at Konoha's academy had arrived. To celebrate the end of the year and their achievements, Minato, accompanied by Tsuna Senju, Kushina Uzumaki, Makoto Uchiha, and a few other classmates, decided to go to a local barbecue restaurant as in the past years. The atmosphere in the restaurant was one of joy and camaraderie. As they savored the barbecue, Minato and his friends discussed recent events at the academy, the fights in the final exam, and their own journeys of personal growth and skill. Kushina, always energetic, told stories of her pranks at the academy with contagious vivacity. Tsuna, more reserved, shared her reflections on the lessons learned and how they could be applied on the battlefield. Makoto, calm yet perceptive, offered insights into technique and strategy, while also expressing her thoughts on the uncertain future awaiting them, as Konoha was now at war and many clans had already been dispatched. From now on, things are going to change, Minato murmured to himself, with a mix of anticipation and determination. The war unfolding around them was a constant reminder that, despite still being a child, he would soon be in the midst of conflicts far greater than anything he had faced in the academy. He knew that he would soon become a genin and didn't need to wait until the end of the next year for that. With that, the real challenges would begin. But I'll be ready, thought Minato, a confident smile appearing on his face. Upon arriving at the orphanage after saying goodbye to his friends and classmates, Minato stopped in front of the orphanage's door and looked up at the night sky once more, feeling a sense of gratitude and responsibility. I will become a shinobi that the whole world will fear, even you, hiding under the earth at this moment, will know my name in this war. I look forward to fighting you in the future, Uchiha Madara, he said silently. With that determination in his heart, he entered the orphanage, ready to rest and prepare for the new chapter of his life in Konoha. Chapter 52, 4th Year 15. Third Person POV. Konoha, Year 35. On a peaceful morning, Minato Namikaze found himself in his training field, engaged in the task of creating exploding tags.
After several attempts over the year and under the watchful supervision of Kushina, as well as valuable tips from Mito Uzumaki, Minato finally began to reap the fruits of his dedication and effort with some of his clones. With precise and concentrated movements, he applied special ink using deep chakra control. Kushina, who appeared to help him, watched from the side, proud and impressed with Minato's progress. "You really got the hang of it, Minato," she commented with a smile.
"Mito-sama would be proud." Minato just smiled in response, keeping his focus on his work.
With each exploding tag he finished, a feeling of satisfaction filled him. Finally, the last drop of special ink was used, completing the seal without exploding.
Minato looked at the collection of exploding tags before him, feeling a mix of pride and relief.
He had created a significant amount, enough to be considered a small fortune for a child his age, and in the current times, as during the war, exploding seals were a valuable commodity.
"This is going to be very useful," thought Minato, already considering the numerous tactical applications for the exploding tags.
With the end of the Fuinjutsu training for that day, Minato carefully stored the exploding tags.
"Now I'm going, you're doing very well, keep it up," Kushina said. "Can I stop by, is Mito available?" Minato asked about the whereabouts of the original Kushina.
"My original plan to stay with Mito-sama all day, so they are likely at the Senju residence," she said before dissipating into smoke. After finishing his training with the exploding tags, Minato headed to the Senju house to propose a trade for his work. He knew that Mito Uzumaki, with her vast experience in Fuinjutsu, would be able to properly assess the quality of his work, so he asked Kushina to ask Mita to help him. In addition, he hoped the Senjus would be interested in acquiring the exploding tags for their own purposes in some of their stores. Upon arriving at the Senju house, he was greeted with a warm welcome by Kushina, who was there.
"Minato, you finally arrived,"
she said with a radiant smile.
"Hello, original Kushina." Minato joked, and they both laughed.
Kushina, always excited by Minato's presence, led him to where Mito was. The matriarch of the Senjus looked at Minato with a curious and welcoming gaze.
"Minato, it's always a pleasure to see you. Kushina told me about your visit and your performance with seals. Are you here for the exploding tags?"
Mito asked, with a gentle voice that always reflected her wisdom and experience.
Minato, with reverent respect, presented the exploding tags to Mito. "I have been working on these exploding tags and would like you to assess them.
Also, I am thinking of offering them in exchange for some resources or additional training in Fuinjutsu." Mito examined the exploding tags with an attentive look, her experienced hands evaluating the quality of Minato's work. She nodded, impressed.
"You have done an excellent job for your age, Minato. It's evident that you have a natural talent for Fuinjutsu. Let's talk about what you need and how we can help you."
The conversation between them flowed naturally, with Minato expressing his needs and Mito offering her guidance. It was clear that Minato had earned the respect and admiration of Mito. Although not having a talent like Kushina, Minato presented something even better than Tsuna. Despite Tsuna having started her training much earlier, Minato could surpass her in a few years.
"You are doing well, Minato.
Your effort and skill are clear, but there is still room for improvement.
Your exploding tags are good, but not perfect. They can be sold as second category," she explained.
Minato listened intently, absorbing every word.
Although he knew there was still room for improvement, he felt encouraged by the feedback. Selling the exploding tags as second category products would still be advantageous.
It meant he could earn enough money not only to continue producing and improving the exploding tags but also to have resources for other needs like his physical training.
"I understand, Mito-sama. I appreciate the honest assessment. I'll work on improving them.
And selling the current production as second category will help me finance more training and resources," Minato replied with a small smile.
Mito nodded. "That's the spirit, boy. Learning from feedback and using it to grow is a valuable quality. If you need more guidance, I'm here to help."
"You can stop by our stores and take what you want, we won't charge anything for it," and they will reimburse you for your exploding tags. Most of our suppliers are from my old clan, but as they are going into war, your tags will also be valuable, Mito said, and Minato was a bit surprised, as he had not expected this. But Mito-sama, I can pay for this. Minato didn't like receiving too much help, and help always comes at a price. I know, boy, but you will be helping me with many things, especially in the future, she commented and continued, you still can't know, but Kushina's future won't be easy. I want her to have someone she can rely on. She looked at him with some appreciation. Kushina, Minato murmured. He secretly knew that Kushina would be the new Jinchuriki, but Kushina had no idea that Minato knew the secret. Yes, in the future you will know. Kushina speaks very highly of you and I see how she looks at you. You defended her in the early days and that left a good impression of you, she spoke, looking towards the door. Kushina must be outside waiting for them to finish. In the future, Kushina will need someone. No, she needs the strongest feeling in this world, love, she said, leaving Minato a bit disconcerted. Well, I don't know if I'm ready for that, Minato said. He was a boy who would soon turn 10, maybe in about 6 years he would start to think about these things. I'm not talking about now, but I want you not to leave Kushina alone. Love in our world is born young and is seldom forgotten. I still remember meeting Hashirama when I was 10 years old on one of his visits to the village with his father and I fell in love with him that day. Even though he seemed like quite an idiotic boy, I laughed, had fun with him, and was charmed by his strength and Mokutan ability. The political marriage was just a way to be with him, she said in a dreamy tone, making even Minato appreciate her story. I want you to take care of her. She will need love, and receiving it from someone she loves is the best possible experience, Mito spoke, looking upwards. Anyway, you will have many trials. I also see my great-granddaughter looking at you. You will be contested either way. I would like to be alive to see this soap opera, especially since I hear you have a close friendship with Uchiha too, fufufu. She laughed softly. Mito-sama. Minato didn't know what to say. He didn't know how to react to the love Mito spoke of or her boldness about a possible love triangle or quadrangle in his life. After leaving Mito's room quite embarrassed, Kushina approached. Minato, are you okay? You're a bit red, she asked, concerned. I'm fine, Kushina, thank you. I'm going now. I have to stop by the Senju stores. Minato quickly said goodbye and left the place, not wanting to talk to Kushina, as the only things on his mind now were Mito's strange conversations. What's up with him? Kushina murmured, watching Minato hurry away. Minato continued on his way to a store with a letter from Mito. He was quickly attended to and managed to get all his things. He left with equipment in a storage scroll and quite a bit of money. Now with a smile of satisfaction on his face, Minato headed to the Hokage Tower. The Hokage Tower always imposed a certain respect and admiration in Minato. He always looked at it while walking through the village, but he never got close. It was the heart of Konoha's leadership, a place where crucial decisions were made, and the future of the village was shaped. Upon entering, Minato was greeted by an assistant of the Hokage. The secretary nodded and went to the door. Hokage-sama, Minato Namikaze is here to see you, she announced. Minato approached, sensing many hidden presences in the room, some so well hidden that even his haki couldn't fully see them at his current level. There was a brief pause before the Hokage's voice responded, calm and clear, please, let him in. Minato walked to Hiruzen Sarutobi's office and opened the door. Entering, he saw the middle-aged Hokage sitting behind his desk, with an air of seriousness and wisdom that always characterized him. Minato, you came. I must congratulate you again for your excellent performance in the academy, said Hiruzen with a welcoming smile. You have excelled impressively and shown abilities that exceed expectations for a student your age, breaking all records. Minato bowed respectfully. Thank you, Hokage-sama. It is an honor for me to see that my efforts have yielded results. Minato had to be respectful here, even if he didn't agree much with this Hokage. Minato, you have demonstrated exceptional potential. Your dedication and skill are admirable, began Hiruzen, leaning his elbows on the table and interlacing his fingers. How do you feel about your future as a shinobi? Minato, maintaining his composure, replied, I am determined to become strong, Hokage-sama, not just for myself, but also to protect the village and those I love. My goal is to be a shinobi of whom Konoha can be proud. He didn't lie, this was his home, there were many people he would like to protect here now, and he would fight for that. Hiruzen smiled, pleased with the response.
That is commendable, Minato. Konoha needs shinobis with your determination and strength of character. You are on the right path.
Hiruzen continued, your skill with ninjutsu, especially with elemental jutsus, is remarkable.
I've heard about your advances with physical training too. It speaks volumes about your dedication and your ability to adapt.
Minato felt a wave of pride but remained humble.
Thank you, Hokage-sama. I will continue to train hard.
Very well, as recognition for achieving the highest rank, you may choose a jutsu that interests you.
Would you like to see the list?
The Hokage said.
Can I choose any jutsu, Hokage? Minato asked, a bit excited. If it's available, yes.
Hiruzen said, interested in which jutsu Minato would choose. He seemed to have one in mind even without looking at the book he wanted the boy to open.
I've heard many stories of the second Hokage and the jutsus he created. I heard he had a space-time jutsu, is it available? Minato asked.
This jutsu would be an identity for him in the future, so it would be very useful for him to already have it at 9 years old.
The Hokage, slightly surprised by Minato's request, raised an eyebrow. The second Hokage's teleportation jutsu? That is an advanced technique, Minato, an S-class jutsu. Why are you interested in it?
Minato, with a determined expression, explained, I want to learn techniques that allow me to protect the village more effectively.
I believe the teleportation jutsu could be a crucial tool for that.
Hiruzen pondered for a moment, assessing the seriousness and determination on the young boy's face.
That jutsu requires exceptional chakra control and an advanced understanding of spacetime.
It's a technique few can master, in fact, no one has been able to learn it since the second Hokage, and there have been many.
I am willing to make the necessary effort, Hokage-sama.
I know it will be difficult, but I am ready for the challenge, Minato replied confidently. Unfortunately, I cannot hand over that jutsu to a child, Minato, I'm sorry, Hiruzen said.
But Minato didn't seem to give up so easily. Hokage-sama, what if I earn more credits with you? Can I use them to exchange for the jutsu? Well, I see you are persistent.
Yes, I will hand over the jutsu if you contribute to the village. This dark time will be a good opportunity to earn credits, he said, and Minato nodded, understanding what he meant. Then I will not take any jutsu, I will focus on increasing my contributions to earn the jutsu, Minato said. I can't let you leave empty-handed, at least take an elemental jutsu for each of your affinities with rank B, the Hokage offered, and Minato was quite surprised by this.
Thank you, Hokage-sama. He couldn't help but thank.
Hiruzen Sarutobi handed Minato a set of scrolls containing rank B elemental jutsus. Minato looked at the scrolls with a sparkle of excitement in his eyes. These jutsus will be a great addition to my arsenal, he thought, thanking the Hokage. These are more advanced jutsus, Minato.
I am confident that you will make good use of them, said Hiruzen, observing Minato's reaction. Thank you, Hokage-sama. I promise I will make good use of them, Minato responded, holding the scrolls firmly as he left the room. Minato was already planning the next steps of his training. He was determined to obtain the Flying Thunder God scroll, so he would start developing an A-rank jutsu on his own to exchange for the second Hokage's jutsu. His goal was to create the Rasengan, which at least could negotiate with the Hokage to learn the jutsu he most wanted at the moment. With this goal in mind, Minato left the Hokage Tower to go to one of the stores to buy many balloons. Chapter 53, 4th Year 16. Third-person POV. Konoha, Year 35.
The next day, Minato fervently dedicated himself to the challenge of developing the Rasengan. He took out thousands of balloons from his storage scrolls that he had also bought the day before, and created clones to fill them with air by the river. He quickly spread clones out, some to train in circulating chakra to pop the balloons. In one corner of the training field, a group of Minato's clones practiced the Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu. They concentrated intensely, manipulating and expanding their chakra to form increasingly larger and more intense fire spheres. The flames grew and twisted with each breath, illuminating the space with their dancing light and scorching heat. Not too far away, another set of clones worked on Futon, Daitapa. This jutsu was a test of control and precision, with the clones learning to blow large gusts of wind, capable of knocking down both enemies and physical obstacles, or even crushing them with air pressure. With each exhalation, a powerful wave of air was released, causing the leaves of nearby trees to vibrate with the force of the wind. At the other end of the field, a third group of clones dedicated themselves to Raitan, Ikazuchi no Kiba. They trained to fire precise and powerful lightning bolts. Combining the tiger, rabbit, and monkey hand seals, the clones released electric sparks that transformed into lightning fangs, striking designated targets with surgical precision. In a few hours, Minato was learning to do all the jutsus after gathering experience from the clones and redoing them again with everything he learned. The same happened with the 12 clones trying to pop the balloons. Minato could not distribute many clones with his limited chakra pool. There were 12 clones for the balloons, 5 for fire jutsus, 5 for water jutsus, 5 for lightning jutsus, while another 13 created paper bombs. The training field turned into a chaotic noise for anyone who approached with the explosions of various jutsus. However, Minato continued without detecting anyone nearby while he was becoming increasingly skilled in his tasks. Minato himself was training his fruit. He transformed his body into light, moving quickly forward a few dozen meters in an instant, trying to adapt to the speed and control. Sometime after hearing that the clones were out of chakra and not wanting to hear a crowd of himself complaining, he dispelled the clones and had finished his training for today, as he had exhausted all his strength. But not before picking up one of the water balloons and lifting it in front of his eyes. He concentrated chakra in his hand, trying to pop it just with the force of the chakra's rotation. Exhausted with his almost empty chakra pool, Minato sought rest under the shade of a nearby tree, as he always did, even imagining Kushina appearing drooling on his shoulder when he woke up. Sometime later, he was awakened by a familiar voice. He opened his eyes, but instead of Kushina, he saw a man with white hair looking at him, Jiraiya. "You had quite the fun here, kid," Jiraiya commented while looking at the partially destroyed training area. "You? Who are you?" Minato asked, feigning curiosity, and as he expected, Jiraiya took on a gloomy mood as if it was raining over his head. You don't remember me?" he said comically, and Minato was laughing inside. You're that one." Minato spoke as if he had remembered something, and Jiraiya saw some hope there. But Minato returned to a bored face. "Sorry, who are you again?" "Jiraiya, it's Jiraiya. The sage of the mountain, the pervert from the women's bathroom, the researcher of inspirations for my book, the famous writer and most powerful student of the current Hokage, the pride of the Leaf Village," he said, getting tangled in his words, but pleading for Minato to recognize him. "You're the famous pervert from the women's bathroom?" Minato looked surprised at him. "You only heard that?" Jiraiya made a comical face. "Ha ha 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 ha." Minato couldn't hold back anymore and started to laugh, and then burst out laughing. You little rascal, you do this on purpose, don't you?" Jiraiya looked at him with veins on his forehead before punching Minato in the head. Minato swiftly dodged the blow. "Agile as always," Jiraiya commented, and Minato looked amused, although he would have had his body transformed into light by Jiraiya's strike, and he didn't want to explain something like that. Jiraiya sighed and spoke normally again. "So, what's going on here with all these balloons?" Jiraiya asked, looking around the training field where several burst balloons were scattered, some still filled with water. Minato stood up, now trying to clear the fog of sleep. "I was trying to master a chakra rotation technique," he explained, a bit hesitant to reveal his plans, but then again, it was Jiraiya in front of him. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow, clearly interested. "Chakra rotation, huh? That's advanced for someone your age. You're always full of surprises, Minato. What do you hope to achieve with this?" "I'm developing a jutsu, so I'm training," Minato revealed. "A jutsu? That's serious?" Jiraiya was quite astonished by this. Before Kakashi, no child would come up saying they created a jutsu. "What kind of jutsu is it?" "I read about the bijou in a book in the library with one of my clones. It detailed some things about the tailed beasts. I saw that they form a ball of pure chakra that can cause great destruction when exploded, even changing the landscape of a region or enveloping an entire village and decimating it the next moment. I want to replicate the Bijudama with my own chakra in a form of high-density rotation," Minato said. He indeed saw a book, there were still public information about tailed beasts at that time. Jiraiya, with his eyes shining with curiosity, approached Minato, bombarding him with a series of questions about the jutsu he was developing.
You really got me intrigued, Minato. Can you show me how you're doing this? Minato nodded.
Sure, Jiraiya-sama. The first part of the training is to control the chakra to burst the balloon without using physical force or direct ninjutsu. With a focused look and picking up a water balloon still on the ground, Minato began concentrating his chakra in his hand. He explained the process as he did it. I concentrate the chakra in the palm of my hand and then make it rotate rapidly. The goal is to create a centrifugal force strong enough to burst the balloon. Jiraiya watched attentively, his analytical eyes following every movement of Minato. After a few seconds of intense concentration, the balloon in Minato's hand began to expand before bursting with a loud pop. Jiraiya whistled, impressed. That's quite sophisticated for someone your age. You're basically outdoing everyone we've ever called prodigies in the past, even my friend Orochimaru. Despite me being stronger than him, everyone called him a prodigy and you're outdoing him from what I see. Minato had to admit that this kid was a monster among monsters. He was only 9 years old.
Minato looked directly at Jiraiya, his eyes full of determination.
Actually, Jiraiya, there's a specific jutsu I want to learn, so I'm developing this to make a trade with the Hokage. It's an S-level jutsu of the second Hokage, the Hiraition no Jutsu, he said, thinking he could use Jiraiya to help him get the Hokage to make this jutsu available.
Jiraiya arched an eyebrow, surprised by the young boy's ambition. Hiraition, huh? That's a space-time technique, Minato. What makes you think you can learn something like that? Did you know that no one has learned it after the second Hokage?
I believe that with the jutsu I am developing now, and this technique, it will be a powerful combination and I have confidence that I can learn space-time techniques. I tried to create a storage scroll, although I couldn't do it, since it requires a master level in Fuinjutsu. Still I realized my affinity with space, Minato said.
That might be possible, perhaps a combination with your lightning and wind affinity? Jiraiya commented in an analytical tone. Jiraiya then smiled, impressed by the boy's audacity and confidence. You're ambitious, Minato. I like that.
Well, if you're determined to train this technique, I'll help you. My teacher owes me a few favors, make the jutsu and I'll take care of the rest.
Minato felt a wave of gratitude and excitement. Having one of the future legendary Sannin as a mentor was more than he could ask for. Thank you, Jiraiya. I'm sure I can do it.
You can call me Sensei from now on, Jiraiya winked at Minato.
Sensei?
Yes, I'm going to take you as my student next year, so it won't be a big surprise for you to call me that, Jiraiya said with a smile.
I guess that's okay then, Sensei, Minato said, seeing it made sense. Anyway, you did the water rotation controlling your chakra, do you have plans for the next step? Jiraiya asked curiously.
Yes, the next step is related to air balloons. My goal is to train with this type of balloon and burst it in the same way, Minato explained. That seems logical, can you try it now? The young Jiraiya asked.
Yes.
Minato created 15 clones, as his chakra pool was not yet fully replenished, and the clones began to fill the balloons with air. After a while, they were all trying to burst the balloons by holding only the chakra in their motionless hands. Jiraiya then began to observe Minato more closely, giving him tips and advice on how to perfect chakra control. Focus on the stability of the chakra. Your rotation needs to be constant and controlled, Jiraiya guided. Despite not knowing the jutsu, he understood the concept. Also focus on rotating in just one direction. Let me see your hair. Usually the rotation of the hair makes it easier to determine your best direction. Jiraiya continued to give tips.
Minato absorbed every word, every piece of advice.
He continued training, this time with the assistance of Jiraiya, who occasionally demonstrated his own techniques to inspire and motivate the young ninja for the rest of the day. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, Jiraiya looked at Minato and his furiously moving balloons, until Minato dispelled the clones.
I think I can't anymore, I'm at my limit. He admitted.
I understand, anyway, your balloons have improved a lot since the beginning, you could develop this until the end of tomorrow, Jiraiya spoke with an impressed tone. Anyway, I'm going back, I want a rest, Minato said, and Jiraiya put his hand on his shoulder. You're really good, Minato, I'm proud as your future teacher, he expressed pride in his voice.
Thank you, Sensei.
Minato smiled before Jiraiya nodded and jumped among the trees in a direction opposite to where Minato was returning to the orphanage.
Chapter 54, 4th Year 17. Third Person POV. Konoha, Year 35.
Minato was returning to the center of the village, lost in thought. That was quite easy. I learned 3 rank bijutsus, mastered the first stage of the Rasengan on the first day, and started the second stage. Even though I only showed the theory to Jiraiya sensei, he quickly grasped the mechanics behind the jutsu and I was able to learn from his words. Minato reflected with satisfaction. I will just refine the jutsus and focus on learning the Rasengan from tomorrow, Minato said, heading towards the orphanage. He stopped walking and started jumping across the rooftops to get back quickly. Minato arrived early at the place where Madame Guerite was taking care of the children. Seeing Minato approach, all the children ran towards him, as he was an inspiration to most of them. For 4 consecutive years, he had been the best student among all the children of the clan, the only civilian in a class of elites. Minato was not only famous among the people of the orphanage, but many ninjas and clans sometimes discussed the prodigious child of this generation among so many talents. The fact that he came from an orphanage made his feats even more impressive. He was also known for his connection with the Senjus and there were even rumors of a future engagement with Tsunade's daughter.
Minato. Can you train me? Minato, is it true that you're going to war? Minato, show me a jutsu. Minato, can I be like you one day? Next year I'm going to the academy, I'll be as good as Minato. Hey, don't push. Minato complained with a smile while surrounded by children. He had proven his strength, even the older ones had tried to challenge him a few years back, but Minato had dealt with all of them, none could compare to the little prodigy. HOI, kids, leave Minato alone, can't you see he's been training again? Let him rest, Madame Guerite immediately told the children to leave Minato, and they reluctantly moved away. Thank you for that, Minato commented. Yes, it's getting harder and harder to deal with them with your fame in the village, as everyone looks up to you. But still, you train day after day, year after year, you're troublesome, kid. But I'm proud of what you've accomplished over these years, she spoke with a tone of pride. Thank you, I'm trying my best, but it's still not enough, Minato said. Just remember our talk a few years back, don't push yourself so hard that you forget about relationships, she advised. Yes, I know. Anyway, I have this here, take it. Minato handed her an envelope with money. This is a lot of money, Minato. Did you make this with those paper bombs you created? You should keep this money, it's yours, she said, a bit surprised. Yes, I created them and the Senjus helped me sell them, don't worry about it, I have some money and the equipment I need, I've already bought it, Minato said, being financed by the Senjus thanks to Mito. So he had some money saved up, why wouldn't he help with the orphanage too? Well, if you insist, I'll use it for the other children, maybe buy some toy kunais, since that's all they think about these days, she joked and Minato smiled before going in to rest after that day. The next day, Minato was training again, he had separated his clones to train his jutsu and was trying to pop the air balloon. Pop! The balloon burst in his hand for the first time, I did it, he exclaimed with satisfaction. What do you think, Jiraiya-sensei? Minato looked towards a tree in the distance, before it rustled and Jiraiya appeared in front of Minato. You're a very good sensor, Jiraiya complimented. Minato had extended the range of his observation haki, he was already finding Jiraiya hidden in one of the nearby trees. I see you did it, Jiraiya said with a certain pride. Finally, now I have to concentrate on pure chakra, I will be able to do it in the next few days, Minato said calmly. That's good, keep it up and look for me when you're done, I'll take you to see my teacher. Jiraiya spoke and Minato nodded. They talked for a while, and Jiraiya left sometime later. Minato used this time to try and generate a Rasengan ball in his hand. It began to form and grow rapidly, spinning swiftly in its pure form. He remembered Naruto in the fight against Tsunade, his ball was equally unstable, trying to maintain it until it exploded in his hand. Well, this is the first attempt.
I'm sure I can master this much faster than my future son would. Minato wasn't lying, he had mastered the jutsu from scratch to this stage in just 2 days, while Naruto took a month. The days went by, and Minato was more focused on training than ever.
He improved the elemental transformation in his jutsus to greatly enhance their current level.
One day, feeling ready enough to take on an S-rank jutsu, he went looking for Jiraiya, usually found in the women's bathroom of the hot springs.
"Hey, Arrow-sensei," Minato greeted.
"Ah. Minato, I see you're here," Jiraiya spoke without looking at his student while writing something and peeking through a hole in the wall. Jiraiya stopped for a moment and finally turned to look at Minato behind him, surprised.
"Minato? How did you find me?"
He jumped, startled.
"It wasn't hard, you asked me to look for you, right?" Minato raised an eyebrow.
"Yes, but I'm surprised you found me so quickly, and here, doing my research for my book." He stumbled over his words. "Come on, sensei, you're a pervert, just admit it," Minato said, crossing his arms. "How can you talk about your sensei like that? I'm just a researcher,"
he protested.
Minato looked calmly at him before threatening, "Sensei, if you do this with any woman I know, I will kill you, and believe me, I will do it." Minato smiled calmly, but his tone was threatening. Jiraiya, hearing this, shivered down his spine, as he felt Minato could do it. How can you say that, Minato? That's not in my nature." Jiraiya stuttered, remembering the time he once tried to peep on Tsunade in the bathroom and nearly died a few years ago.
"Anyway, what can I do for you?"
Jiraiya quickly changed the subject. "I want to present my jutsu to the Hokage, to exchange for the S-rank jutsu," Minato said excitedly.
"Already? Then let's go."
"I wanted that jutsu, but since you're going to show it to the Hokage, let's see him there," Jiraiya said, equally excited, trusting the boy when he said he had completed the jutsu. Thus, Jiraiya and Minato headed to the Hokage Tower, jumping across houses and buildings, with Jiraiya entering through the window and Minato following behind.
"Jiraiya? And Minato?"
"I see you two know each other," the Hokage said, taking the pipe out of his mouth and setting aside his papers and responsibilities to face the duo.
"Hello, sensei."
"I brought Minato because he told me about his interest in a specific jutsu from the jutsu scroll. He developed a jutsu to exchange with you.
I would like this to happen for some favors you owe me,"
Jiraiya said, winking at Minato, indicating he had something to help Minato get the jutsu.
"I see.
But I'm surprised, it's only been 5 days since Minato was here. How could he have developed a jutsu, and how could a child have done this?"
"This is indeed interesting,"
Hiruzen commented, looking attentively at the boy. "It's a jutsu I've been planning for a few years, but now I focused on learning it," Minato murmured.
"And what kind of jutsu is it?"
The Hokage was fully attentive to Minato at that moment.
"It's an offensive A-rank jutsu, given the difficulty of learning it. Let me show you."
Minato spoke and raised his hand, his chakra beginning to swell from it, spinning into a sphere forming a brightly rotating ball.
"This is incredible."
Jiraiya was the first to speak, looking at the spinning sphere in Minato's hand. "This is truly unexpected, I have never seen a talent like yours, Minato."
"Do you have the jutsu scroll for me to take a look?" Minato nodded and handed over a scroll detailing the process of creating the jutsu after dispelling the Rasengan.
This is, indeed, interesting. It will contribute to the war, no doubt. However, an A-level jutsu is still not sufficient to exchange for the second Hokage's S-level jutsu, even considering some outstanding favors, Jiraiya, said Hiruzen with a serious expression. Jiraiya, somewhat disconcerted by the Hokage's response, tried to disguise his surprise. "I was confident that this might be enough," he murmured, more to himself than to the others present.
He was sure he could secure the jutsu for Minato. "What if I offer a second jutsu? Another A-level jutsu that I developed these days?" Minato suddenly spoke, grabbing everyone's attention, and he could even feel the surprise from the hidden Umbu in the room. "You developed a second A-rank jutsu?" Both Hiruzen and Jiraiya were stunned at that moment. "Yes, watch." Minato began to perform the hand seals right there, rat horse monkey horse rabbit.
Placing one open hand downward while the other held his wrist, lightning began to emerge and he executed the Chidori, a jutsu he developed in the last 3 days after improving in nature transformation with the jutsu's element. Both the Hokage, Jiraiya, and the Yambu watched the 10-year-old boy holding lightning in his hands, illuminating the entire room. The only sound in the room was from Minato's lightning. After Minato cancelled the jutsu and looked at the pairs of astounded eyes, he picked up a scroll and threw it at the Hokage, who caught it by reflex. Without opening it, the Hokage looked at the scroll and analyzed the information Minato put on it. Minato had stolen the jutsu from Kakashi, who had not yet been born as far as he knew, but he was willing to be an original thief if it resulted in him getting Raijin sooner, as great doors would open for him from that moment. You can take the S-level jutsu by giving these 2 A-level jutsus and all the favors I owe Jiraiya. Hiruzen admitted, even surprising Jiraiya. He looked at Minato. Are you sure you want to learn the second Hokage's jutsu? It's a technique that no one has been able to master so far. There are no guarantees that you will be able to learn it. Are you sure about this? The Hokage asked, his voice laden with seriousness. Minato, without hesitation, answered firmly, yes, I am willing to take that risk. I am confident in my ability to learn and master this technique. Hiruzen nodded, impressed with the boy's determination. Well, if you are truly willing to risk so much to learn this jutsu, I will grant it to you. But first, I want to test the effectiveness of your A-level jutsus. With that, the Hokage stood up from his chair, indicating they would go to Training Ground 7 for a practical demonstration. Jiraiya and Minato followed the Hokage, crossing the office to the window, from where they would depart for the test site. Minato, following them, felt satisfied and confident. He believed that, before the end of the day, he would have in his hands the knowledge of the Raijin Jutsu, a gigantic step in his journey as a shinobi. His gaze was fixed on the future, full of possibilities and challenges he was more than ready to face. Chapter 55, 4th Year 17. Third-person POV. Konoha, Year 35. On the way to Training Ground 7, Minato leaped across houses alongside Jiraiya and the Hokage. For anyone in this village, it would be an honor to be beside the Hokage and his student, but Minato had a focused mind at the moment. He was about to achieve the Raijin. As they moved, some Umbus could be noticed, discreetly following at a safe distance, ensuring the Hokage's protection. Upon arriving at the training ground, the place was empty except for the 3 of them and the hidden Umbu. Minato quickly went to the center of the field to finish this quickly. The Hokage, with an air of expectation, addressed Minato, "We are ready to see your skills, Minato. Show us the jutsus you've developed in practice." Minato nodded, concentrating. He was aware that each of his movements would be observed and analyzed by the highest ranks of Konoha. Minato sighed and, raising his hand, the Rasengan began to form at high speed, emitting a growing hum that filled the air. The chakra sphere, now fully formed, became a perfect Rasengan. Minato, holding the spinning sphere of pure chakra, advanced towards a set of rocks and nearby trees. With a quick and precise movement, he hit the rocks with the Rasengan. The impact was immense, an explosion of energy that sent rock fragments flying in all directions. He did the same with the trees, which shook violently from the force of the impact, some of them breaking and falling under the power of the technique. On the side of the training ground, the Hokage, Jiraiya, and the Anbu were closely observing the results of Minato's attack. They analyzed the destroyed rocks and trees, impressed with the devastating power of the Rasengan. Hiruzen Sarutobi approached the impact site, examining the debris. "Look at the rotational force of this jutsu," he commented, pointing to the circular patterns engraved on the broken rocks. "It's a technique that combines a high level of chakra control with intense rotation, resulting in concentrated destructive power, but it's also devastating for internal attacks." Jiraiya, observing the broken trees and the marks left by the Rasengan, also commented, "The most impressive is the potential for internal damage. This attack not only physically destroys, but the rotational impact can cause severe internal damage to the target. It's a technique that can be decisive in combat." The Hokage turned to Minato thoughtfully. "Minato, you've exceeded expectations. The Rasengan is a powerful addition to Konoha's arsenal. I am convinced that your contribution to the village will be immense. I hope more ninjas learn to perform such a jutsu. Minato nodded, somewhat proud to have developed this technique in less than 3 days, since in another 2 days he developed the Chidori. Let's see your second jutsu, kid, Jiraiya spoke, and Minato nodded. There, he performed the hand seals and put his hand down, before sparks began to emerge and lightning manifested. Minato, with the Chidori in hand, quickly advanced towards a row of trees and rocks. The speed at which he moved was impressive. As he approached his target, the sound of the Chidori echoed through the field, increasing in intensity. With a determined shout, Minato attacked. The Chidori collided with a tree, and the penetrating force of the jutsu was immediately apparent. The tree was literally split in half, with the electricity of the jutsu leaving burn marks and wood fragments flying in all directions. Turning to a block of stone, Minato repeated the attack. The Chidori hit the rock with tremendous force, piercing it completely and leaving a clean, smoking hole. The penetrating power of the jutsu was undeniable. The stone, which would normally resist common attacks, seemed almost fragile under the impact of the Chidori. The Hokage and Jiraiya watched, once again impressed with the demonstration of power. "This is incredible," commented Hiruzen, the Hokage, with an expression of admiration. The Chidori combines speed and power in a striking and penetrating attack. Its ability to pierce solid targets makes it an extremely lethal jutsu in combat, worthy of being an A-rank jutsu. Jiraiya, looking at Minato, couldn't contain a proud smile. "Minato, you've really developed something special. These jutsus show not just your talent, but also your deep understanding of chakra and its applications." "Thank you, sensei," Minato said with a small smile. "Minato, I'm genuinely impressed with the jutsus you've developed on your own," said Hiruzen, looking at Minato with a mix of pride and expectation. "You've shown remarkable creativity and skill for your age. I'm convinced that you will become one of the greatest shinobis Konoha has ever seen." Minato listened attentively, nodding proudly of his years of practice yielding notable results beyond the skills he continued to conceal. Hiruzen continued, "In recognition of your hard work and the potential you've demonstrated, I'll be passing on the second Hokage's jutsu to you in the coming days. I'll be eager to see how you integrate it with your already impressive abilities." Minato nodded with gratitude and respect. "Thank you, Hokage-sama. I will master and make good use of the jutsu and continue working hard to contribute to the village." With a nod of his head, Minato bid farewell to Hiruzen and Jiraiya, leaving the training ground and heading back to the village. As Minato departed, Jiraiya and Hiruzen remained in the training field, discussing the young ninja's promising future. "Look, sensei, there's someone even more talented than your Orochimaru in this generation," Jiraiya joked. "I must admit, I thought the boy would be an elite jonin, but I see that I'm underestimating him." Jiraiya looked at his teacher. "Since the day I knew of Minato's existence, I realized he had unbelievable potential," commented Jiraiya, looking in the direction Minato had taken. "I believe he might very well be the child of the prophecy I've been searching for. His talent and determination are exceptional." Hiruzen, reflecting on Jiraiya's words, nodded in agreement. "It's true. Minato is not just a rare talent but also has a good character in his record. He never let his talent go to his head and is always evolving and working hard from what I've heard. Who knows, maybe a substitute for my position in the future," he commented, reflecting on the future of the village. "Perhaps, but I'm eager to see how far he'll go," said Jiraiya, with a tone of pride in his voice. "He might well change the shinobi world." The two continued talking about Minato's future. While Minato walked back to the center of the village, a familiar figure landed gracefully in front of him. It was Kushina, with her bright red hair and an excited expression on her face. "Minato! I've been looking everywhere for you," exclaimed Kushina, a bit out of breath. Minato smiled, surprised and pleased by the unexpected encounter. "Hi, Kushina. Why are you looking for me?" Kushina, a bit hesitant, began to speak. "Well, I wanted to ask you if you'd like to go with me to a new restaurant that's opening today. But, just to be clear, it's not a date," she quickly added, her face turning red. Minato immediately realized what she was talking about. "You're talking about Ichirako Ramen, aren't you? I heard they're opening today." "Sure,
I'd love to go with you. Kushina, relieved and still blushing, nodded enthusiastically. Great! I've heard so many good things about this place. They say the ramen is the most delicious in Konoha.
Then, let's find out, said Minato, walking alongside her towards the restaurant. As they walked, the conversation flowed naturally between them. Kushina talked animatedly about her recent adventures and trainings, while Minato shared some of his own experiences from the last few days. Minato decided he would celebrate his recent achievements with Kushina, as it seemed the perfect way to end such a significant day. Upon arriving at Ichiraku Ramen, they were greeted by the inviting aroma of ramen broth being prepared.
Minato looked at Kushina.
This seems like a great place, the smell is really good.
Kushina returned with a smile. Yes. And I'm really curious to try this ramen everyone's talking about.
They sat together, choosing their dishes with excitement.
Minato noticed a young and enthusiastic Tucci.
While they waited, they continued their conversation. When the ramen arrived, both expressed their surprise and delight at the taste and quality of the dish.
Minato realized that this flavor lived up to what he had seen in the anime. This is so good, Databane! Kushina practically shouted. I'm glad you liked it, girl, Tucci responded. Kushina, thank you for bringing me here.
This really made my day, said Minato, with a genuine smile.
Kushina blushed slightly and replied, I should be thanking you for coming with me. It's always nice to spend time with you, Minato.
As the conversation flowed between the two, the day soon began to darken.
Minato ended up talking a bit about his day with the girl. You were with the Hokage and one of his students like Tsunade? That's incredible, Minato! Kushina exclaimed, surprised and impressed. Minato told her about the exchange of jutsus, trying to keep the conversation light and not delve into complicated details.
You are really amazing, but I will still be the Hokage, she said at the end, laughing.
I'm sure you will be a powerful kunoichi, Minato said. After finishing their meal, Minato accompanied Kushina to the Senjutsu. It was a great evening, Kushina.
As Minato was about to say goodbye, Kushina approached Minato and kissed him on the cheek, taking Minato by surprise as she ran inside with her face as red as her hair.
Well, that was unexpected, Minato commented, touching his cheek.
With no further choice, he decided to return to the orphanage, putting aside the scene of the kiss. While walking, Minato reflected on the recent events, his achievement with the Hokage. He was already planning how he would use his Raijin. He could do anything with it once he mastered it. Upon arriving at the orphanage, Minato was greeted with the usual affection and joy of the children and Madame Guerite. He briefly shared about the new ramen restaurant, promising the children that he would take them there one day. Then, he retired to his room, reflecting on the day. In the silence of his room, Minato felt satisfied and content. Another year had passed, and he was very close to becoming a genin and going to war, but he would be very well prepared for almost anything he encountered on the battlefield. Chapter 56, Last Year 01. Third-person POV. Konoha, Year 36. Months had passed and Minato was returning from one of his sales with the paper bombs. He had made a lot of money from this for a while, and today, he was especially happy, going to buy some things. He went to a less privileged area of the village and arrived at a house. There lived a sick woman with a 4-year-old boy. She was Dewey's wife, and the boy was Guy. After training for a while with Dewey, Minato eventually met his family. Minato-san, the boy exclaimed from the window as Minato approached, looking very happy to see him. Minato, with a smile on his face, had become a kind of godfather to the child. Now that Dewey had been dispatched to the war, he visited his family more frequently and always helped financially with the explosive seals. Hello, Guy. How are things? Minato approached. I'm fine, I started training my body. I want to be as strong as you and Dad, the boy exclaimed. He sometimes saw Minato and his father training, which inspired him a lot. I'm sure of it, little Guy, Minato ruffled his bowl-cut hair. The boy looked at Minato and seemed hesitant for a moment before speaking. Minato-san, I heard some people saying the other day that my dad was useless, is that true? Why do people treat him badly? the boy asked innocently.
Minato sighed and crouched beside the boy. Don't worry about what people say. Your father is a strong man and will surprise everyone in the future.
He's a hidden diamond in the village and will be even stronger than the current Hokage, mark my words, Minato commented with a small smile.
Really? He will be stronger than the current Hokage? Guy asked in surprise. Yes, I'm sure of it. Hasn't he been studying the human body lately?
I'm sure he plans to create a unique technique, Minato said dreamily, knowing that Due was studying the 8 gates, not that he was interested in the technique for himself since it wasn't his style.
However, that didn't stop the technique from being classified as legendary. Yes, he studies every night. If Minato-san, considered the village's greatest genius, says so, then it's true.
I will also inherit my father's power of youth, the boy said excitedly. Minato was a bit embarrassed by the boy's declaration, as the rumor of the greatest talent appearing in the village now belonged to him, and many talked about it. Even Madame Gurit was receiving many more visitors at the orphanage, and some had tried to adopt Minato, but he refused. With the Hokage's help, it was not possible. That's good, I'm sure you will be a great and powerful taijutsu user, Minato spoke confidently.
Ha ha. Yes, I will prove my power to everyone.
Little Guy acted like any child, even starting to do push-ups on the ground, claiming he would do 100, which left Minato a bit lost, wondering if it was healthy for a 4-year-old boy. After leaving Little Guy to his activity, Minato went to the kitchen where Dewey's wife was.
Minato, you're here, she smiled.
I came to bring some money for you, he said, handing over an envelope.
You don't need to do this, Minato.
You should save this money for yourself, she said, not wanting to accept the money. I insist, you know I've been making a lot of money lately and can take care of myself with what's left. I'm doing this because Due has helped me a lot, so it's the least I can do, Minato said, leaving the envelope on the table.
All right.
Then at least stay for some coffee, she commented, and Minato ended up spending some time chatting with her and Little Guy. After leaving the place, Minato headed to the orphanage. He was about to move for the first time, as the Hokage had provided an apartment for him. So, he would finally have his own home. He gathered his belongings at the orphanage, said goodbye to the children and Madame Gurit. Good luck, boy, I'm sure you'll have a bright future, she said proudly.
Thank you, I'll do my best. Minato replied confidently. Minato left the orphanage with his few belongings, arriving at his new apartment. He was impressed.
It was a modest space, but well organized and comfortable, ideal for one person. He began to organize his things, finding a place for each item he had brought with him. While arranging his belongings, Minato heard a noise coming from the bedroom. Curious, he approached and, to his surprise, found Suna sitting on his bed.
Suna, what are you doing here? Asked Minato, a bit surprised by her presence.
Suna, with a mischievous smile, replied, I heard you were moving today and wanted to surprise you.
Plus, I brought something to celebrate your new house.
She showed a small box of sweets, a simple gift, but Minato would not fail to thank her for it. This looks delicious, so let me finish up and we'll eat.
Minato said, storing his things. Suna helped him and Minato couldn't help but notice something in her he hadn't seen before.
Your hair, why did you dye it? He asked curiously. I dyed the tips of my hair, do you like it? She asked with a twinkle in her eye.
It's different, but I like the look. Minato admitted. It's good that you liked it, otherwise you would be in a hole in the wall, she said smiling and joking, and Minato just shook his head. You're finally living alone, Suna said, eating the sweets she brought, sitting comfortably on Minato's bed, with a slightly teasing smile. Minato laughed.
Yes, to be honest, it's a new experience away from all those screaming kids all the time.
It seems like a big step, but I'm ready for it.
I just hope you don't become one of those lonely and mysterious shinobis. You know, the type that gets obsessed with missions only and forgets to live life, Suna joked, but there was a hint of concern in her voice.
Minato shook his head, smiling. Don't worry, Suna. I have many plans besides being a shinobi.
And I won't forget my friends.
Suna looked at him with an evaluating gaze. Well, you've always been different from the others. Just promise you won't change too much, okay? Minato nodded. I promise.
At that moment, a different atmosphere began to form between Minato and Suna, something more intimate and personal than the usual friendship they shared. They were sitting close to each other, talking and laughing, but gradually the tone of the conversation changed. There was a comfortable silence, and they found themselves looking at each other in a way they had never done before.
Suna, usually confident and assertive, seemed a bit hesitant, but there was a sparkle in her eyes that Minato couldn't ignore.
He, in turn, couldn't help but feel his heart beat faster as he looked at the girl. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, they drew closer.
Suna's eyes met Minato's, and there was an undeniable attraction between them.
Minato could feel her breath, and for a moment, everything else seemed to disappear. They were just inches apart, their eyes slowly closing, ready for what seemed to be an inevitable kiss. However, at the last second, there was a hesitation. Minato's body moved on its own, but he knew it wouldn't be right to kiss the girl like that.
Suna, Minato began, but couldn't find the right words. Suna smiled slightly, a bit embarrassed, and drew back a little. I think, maybe this was a mistake.
I don't want to ruin our friendship, and you already have Kushina, she said, her voice low.
Minato nodded, feeling a mix of relief and disappointment. Yes, our friendship is important. I don't want to lose that.
They tried to resume the conversation, but there was a new barrier between them, a recognition that perhaps there was more to their relationship than just friendship. I think I better go, it's getting late and Mito asked me to accompany her and Kushina for dinner, she said a bit shyly.
Do you want me to walk you home? Minato asked. No. It's okay, see you tomorrow on the first day of class, Minato. Goodbye. Suna practically ran out, leaving only Minato alone in the room, not knowing what to think. Good night, Suna, Minato murmured, but the girl had already gone. Geez, dealing with so many women is so difficult, is it wrong for me to feel this attraction for more than one woman?
I don't think polygamy is wrong in this world, but still, it's very new to me, and I'm afraid of messing up my relationships. Minato couldn't help but debate this internally. He liked Kushina and would make her his wife, but he had known Suna for so many years. He liked Makoto, but Suna seemed to stir his feelings even more. I hope I don't have to choose between Kushina and Suna, can I have both in the future, can't I? He asked no one in particular while continuing to lie in bed. Some hours had passed, and Suna also seemed equally lost, sitting outside her room. Looks like you're quite distracted today, Suna. A voice called her, and she quickly looked up to see Mito approaching the girl. Great-grandmother. I was just... She murmured. Thinking, but I wonder what you are thinking about. Usually, you're not like this, but I believe there must be a good reason for it, perhaps involving feelings? Mito joked, and Suna blushed. I heard you went to see Minato this afternoon. Did something happen between you two? She raised an eyebrow. I don't know, we almost kissed. She admitted. It's normal for a boy and a girl to like each other and express those feelings through affection. I remember how I used to hit Hashirama in my youth when he messed up, she said nostalgically. That's not what I mean, I don't hit Minato and I can't even do that to start a conversation. Suna said. Ho ho ho. Of course not, there are many ways to express your affection, but if you like him or love him, don't let him slip away, she said. But he has Kushina, I see how the two of them act when they're together. I shouldn't get involved. She spoke with a hint of sadness. Little Suna, Minato will be a strong boy, I'm sure there will be places for you and Kushina in his heart, if you love him, don't let him escape, I'm sure Kushina won't be the only competitor, Mito spoke. Are you saying he can marry two women? Suna asked. Polygamy was uncommon among ninjas, it happened with nobles, but rarely a ninja had two wives at the same time. If you love him and he feels the same, I'm sure there will be room for you and Kushina, maybe even more, who knows. But it would be good to think about this after 15 years, you're still very young for a relationship, Mito spoke now in a more stern tone despite using kind words. Thank you, great-grandmother. I'm going to sleep now, I have the academy tomorrow. Suna said goodbye with a kiss and went back to her room. You heard that, our girl is growing up, Mito said with a small smile, and a shadow jumped next to Mito. It was Tsunade. First she dyes her hair and now talks about boys. My daughter is really becoming problematic, Tsunade said in a disapproving tone. She's talking about her future husband, Mito said. That boy better not hurt my daughter, otherwise, I'll carve a hole in the Hokage's rock with his face, Tsunade threatened. Mito just laughed, and they returned to their rooms. The next day, the first day of the academy started as usual, but while the kids were gossiping, the atmosphere between Minato and Suna was visibly different. They avoided eye contact and barely spoke, a drastic change from their usual interaction. This did not go unnoticed by their friends, especially Kushina and Makoto, who were used to the closeness and camaraderie that normally existed between the two. Kushina, always direct and straightforward, was the first to address the issue. Hey, what's going on with you two, Databane? You're acting weird today, she questioned, looking alternately at Minato and Suna. Suna, caught off guard by Kushina's direct question, stuttered a bit before answering. Oh, it's nothing, Kushina. Just tiredness from the first day of class, she tried to disguise, looking away. Makoto, observing the scene, also noticed the tension. She knew Minato and Suna well and knew something had happened. You've hardly spoken to each other since you arrived. That's not normal, she commented, looking suspiciously. Minato, feeling a bit pressured, tried to ease the situation. Really, it's just tiredness. You know, the first day of class and all that. He said, trying to appear unconcerned. Kushina and Makoto heard that, but they clearly did not believe those words for the rest of the day. Chapter 57, Last Year 02. Third-person POV. Konoha, Year 36. Even with Kushina and Makoto being viewed with suspicion by their friends, this was only interrupted when Professor Fuma, with his usual serious demeanor and firm voice, addressed the students. The room was filled with familiar faces from the past years. Students, welcome to another year at the academy, began Professor Fuma. This year promises to be full of challenges and learning. I am happy to be here again to guide you on your journey as shinobis. He paused, looking around the room before continuing. We have a new student joining us this year. She comes from a renowned clan that some of you belong to, and I am sure you will all welcome her well. Fuma gestured towards the door, where a young girl, with the distinctive pearl-like eyes of the Hyuga, entered. This is Hanabi Hyuga, introduced Fuma. She has transferred to our class from another group due to her excellent performance and will undoubtedly be a great addition. Hanabi, with a confident yet reserved posture, walked to the middle of the room. She briefly looked at Hayashi and Hisashi Hyuga, who nodded silently. As usual, she had to make an introduction, but what she said was simple. I hope to learn a lot from all of you, she said, her voice soft but firm, reflecting the discipline and training of the Hyuga clan. Looking for a place to sit, Hanabi noticed there were few spaces available. Her eyes fixed on a spot next to Minato and Makoto at the back of the room, who seemed to be quietly conversing. With slight hesitation, she headed there and sat down, greeting them with a discreet nod. Minato and Makoto nodded back and allowed the young girl to join them. Professor Fuma began the day's activities, marking the start of a year and probably the last for everyone with the war situation, and it was no secret that they might be dispatched in the middle of the year. The professor went on to detail the plans for the academic year. This year, our focus continues to be on preparing you not only for the exams but also for the real challenges a shinobi might face on the battlefield, Fuma started. The war on the eastern and western fronts continues, with minor conflicts, but our village has been regaining ground lost during the Raikage attack in the north. He paused, allowing the words to sink in. Although we are in a time of war, our mission here at the academy is to ensure that you are ready for any eventuality. We will intensify our training in ninjutsu and taijutsu, as well as combat strategies and survival. I hope everyone takes this year seriously. What you learn here could save your lives and the lives of your comrades in the future, Fuma concluded, his tone emphasizing the seriousness of his words, starting the class. As the class progressed, Minato couldn't help but notice Hanabi Hyuga's isolation. She remained silent, not interacting with him and Makoto, and even the other clan members, Hayashi and Hizashi, stayed distant. During the break, Minato, Makoto, Suna, and Kushina stayed together, despite Minato and Suna barely being able to look at each other for long, quickly averting their gaze.
But this didn't stop Suna from teasing Makoto. "Did you see the new student? She looks a bit like you, Uchiha, all antisocial," said Suna. "Sorry if I'm not as scandalous as you, Senju," Makoto retorted. You want to fight? Bring it on. Can you both stop, Databane?" Kushina wanted to hit both of them.
Meanwhile, Minato stood by silently, but couldn't help but look at the girl eating alone on a bench far from everyone, as if she wanted to distance herself from everyone. The day at the academy proceeded with a familiar rhythm. The teacher began by reviewing everything they had done in the previous year, and this was quite demanding for Minato, realizing that all the complaints from his clones in the past years were real.
Time flowed and the announcement of the end of class quickly motivated Minato to leave for his training.
Minato headed to his usual training field, where Jiraiya would not be present, as he had been dispatched to the western border of the Land of Rain. While he was training, all his friends were also busy, Kushina with training with Mito, Suna with her mother honing her techniques, especially now that she had departed for the war, leaving a lot of tasks for Tsuna. Makoto, on the other hand, had training with her clan. Minato knew he would hardly see his friends this year. He had more acquaintances, but none as close as the girls, and Minato was known for being the most talented of his generation, surrounded by a fan club, even though he didn't consider the girls as his fangirls, as none of them behaved that way, even if sometimes there was a certain atmosphere with one or another.
Minato arrived at his usual training field alone.
His training regimen was intense and meticulously planned, from the concepts he picked up from Guy to what he learned from Mito and Kushina, alternating between enhancing his physical abilities and developing his ninjutsu techniques. In addition, he continued making exploding tags, an activity that had become not just a source of income but also a practice to refine his chakra control and precision, with the boy finally moving from the intermediate stage to becoming a specialist. At the end of the day, exhausted but satisfied with his progress, Minato returned to his new apartment. He had achieved a significant milestone by mastering both Rasengan and Chidori. "It's time to take the next step," Minato murmured, lying in his bed. He was aware that the war was intensifying at the borders and that soon, he might be called to fight. This made him eager to seek an even more powerful technique, something that could give him a significant advantage on the battlefield along with his Raijin. The technique he had in mind was the Rasen Shuriken, an advanced and much more powerful variation of Rasengan, something that Naruto would create in the future. Minato knew that this jutsu combined the basic formation of Rasengan with a specific nature transformation, creating a devastating attack capable of inflicting cellular-level damage. The challenge in mastering such a technique was immense, classified as rank S, but Minato was determined to face this challenge. He spent the night analyzing the theories behind Rasengan and how he could add a nature transformation to it, as what he saw on TV wasn't exactly practical. He had already noticed this when he created his own Rasengan and Chidori. Knowing that the wind element was the most challenging to manipulate due to its unstable and unpredictable nature, Minato was aware that the task would require an extraordinary amount of chakra control and concentration. The boy began writing in a notebook on his bedside table, outlining a training plan directly with the wind nature transformation for the coming days. He decided to dedicate his mornings to enhancing his elemental skills, focusing on manipulating the wind element, while the afternoons would be reserved for Raijin, two techniques that would make him a legend on the battlefield. At dawn, Minato was already at his training field, having sent a clone to the academy. He created 50 clones, the maximum he could maintain without compromising the quality of training for an entire day. Each clone worked on manipulating wind, trying to understand and control the subtleties of this element, starting with cutting water, as the leaf cutting and tree slicing were things he did to master his wind jutsus. Unlike Naruto, who could create 1,000 clones in the original work, Minato had to settle for a much smaller number.
However, he compensated for this limitation with a deep understanding and a talent in ninjutsu that only he possessed.
In the afternoon, Minato finally picked a specific scroll from his storage scroll. He would start training with Raijin. Days turned into weeks, and each training session brought Minato closer to his goal. He spent hours observing the movement of the leaves in the wind, feeling the breeze on his skin, and trying to replicate this naturalness in his chakra manipulation.
Finally, we will learn this technique. Minato murmured, looking at the scroll.
As Minato unrolled the scroll, he could feel the history and power contained within that paper. The scroll detailed the fundamentals of the technique, how to create and use the special seals necessary for teleportation, and how to link these seals to objects, living beings, or even the air. The second Hokage, with his genius, had developed this remarkable technique, but Minato realized there was untapped potential. He was limited, Minato thought. Perhaps by his time, or perhaps by his own limitations in chakra and concentration. Minato reflected on the possible limitations the second Hokage faced. The technique, as described, showed limitations in terms of range, the number of seals that could be created and maintained, and the speed of activation. These are challenges I can overcome, like Minato did in the original. I will do better, murmured Minato with determination. The young shinobi began theorizing about how he could expand the limits of the technique. If I could create multiple marks simultaneously, and at a greater range, but I need to improve a level of my Fuinjutsu. Minato from the original work was never a master in Fuinjutsu, but he was at least a specialist, I believe. Minato thought to himself, outlining a plan. He was not just aiming to learn a jutsu that no one else had executed for decades but to enhance it and reach a new level. I will take the Hiraition no Jutsu to new heights, Minato promised himself, as he re-rolled the scroll. Having read and memorized everything he could, it was now time to put it into practice. Chapter 58, Last Year 03. Third Person POV. Konoha, Year 36. Weeks had passed, and Minato continued his intense training. He kept up the routine of maintaining clones for theoretical lessons while training his nature transformation and refining the spatial jutsu compression of the second Hokage with Fuinjutsu. He had finally reached the expert stage. Besides training, he always stopped by Dewey's house and visited the orphanage on weekends. Little Minato. Minato had gone to the Senju clan complex today to see Mito, who greeted him with a warm smile. Mita-sama. Minato greeted her back. Kushina told me you've improved your Fuinjutsu. You want one of my books, don't you? She said. Well, I do want one, but I can't just ask like that, can I? Minato said, scratching his head. Well, if it were anyone else, the answer would be no, but you can have it. Here it is. She handed him the book she had created, and Minato was very grateful for it. Minato said goodbye and left the complex towards his training area. He took a different path from the Senju clan to shorten the distance and ended up passing through other training areas. As he walked through the forest, he stumbled upon someone training there. Approaching, Minato, a bit surprised, watched Hanabi Hyuga intensely focused on her solitary training. The girl, who was always reserved, displayed deep concentration, striking the air with palms that released concentric waves of chakra. It was a spectacle of precision and control, but the atmosphere around her was undeniably cold, almost hostile. She struck the space in front of her with rapid movements as Minato recognized the Hyuga style. Seeing that it would be rude to watch someone training in secret, he began to withdraw, leaving the girl in peace. Is spying on others something a genius does now? Minato, who was leaving, stopped upon hearing the girl's voice. She looked at him with her Byakugan activated, and Minato sighed a bit, realizing she must have seen him since he approached. After all, the Byakugan covers 360 degrees like observation hockey. Sorry about that, I was just passing through. Minato moved away, having been discovered. Then go away, she simply said. Alright, I won't bother you anymore, but let me ask you something. Minato said and continued. Why train out here away from your clan? He asked, curious, since the Hyuga clan was very strict. Because it's better to train here, there isn't someone reminding me of my destiny all the time. She replied honestly, though there was no warmth in her tone. Destiny, you mean that? Minato looked a bit surprised. I'm from the branch family. My destiny is to serve the main family since I received my mark on the forehead. She said, pointing to the forehead covered with a cloth she always wore. She reminds me of the same things Niji used to say. Minato couldn't help but think to himself. I see.
Minato commented, not knowing what to say about that. After all, he wasn't Naruto to shout about changing the Hyuga clan when he becomes Hokage. Is that something a non-Hyuga can understand? Hanabi spoke coldly, perhaps out of frustration. No, you're right. Minato ended up saying in a serious tone to the girl and continued. But don't let what you define as your destiny define you. Minato might not have known what he was saying, since this was a Hyuga tradition going back many generations, but he disliked someone talking about being a slave in the future. The Hyuga clan was the clan Minato disliked the most in the Leaf Village. It's no wonder he, despite being one of the strongest, never stood out like the Uchihas or Senjus, even though he had the blood of Kaguya and her eyes. Minato didn't wait for the girl to speak and simply left the area. He didn't want to stay any longer, leaving only Hanabi watching him depart. In the following days, dozens of Minatos were training water slicing. He and his classmates had received a few more C-rank elemental jutsus at the beginning of the year. Minato, unsurprisingly, mastered them quickly, and a month after starting classes, he was finally making progress. A few days later, he had mastered the control of nature chakra ideal for an S-level technique. Minato began focusing on the Raisin Shuriken, attempting to add wind element chakra to it. He didn't need clones like Naruto to form the Rasengan, so he tried to do the same with the Raisin Shuriken, but still had difficulty controlling the amount of chakra to add to the jutsu as it formed in his hand. As he concentrated wind element chakra into the Rasengan, cutting wind helices began to form around the sphere, producing a sharp and piercing sound. The created wind was so turbulent that even Minato's clones, dedicated to creating bomb tags and perfecting Fuinjutsu techniques, found themselves in trouble. Hey, original! Stop that, one of the clones protested, struggling to concentrate amid the chaos. I can't focus like this, complained another. You made me spill the ink, lamented a third, as he tried to salvage the work he had done. Practice that somewhere else, they advised in unison, clearly disturbed by the disruption caused by Minato's intensive training. The clones kept complaining, and Minato ended up sighing as he cancelled the jutsu to let his clones work. He left there and ended up going to the place where he had encountered Hanabi. Seeing that there was no one nearby, he began to concentrate on his jutsu, creating a Rasengan. The sphere vibrated in his hand before he began to add wind element chakra, creating the small helices and trying to focus on adding more chakra to complete the jutsu without it exploding. Boom, asterisk. The inevitable happened. The sphere exploded, throwing Minato back with the force of the impact. Moving quickly in a line of light back to the middle of the area and quickly, thanks to his Logia nature protecting him from injuries, he positioned himself to try again. The advantage of being a Logia allowed him to experiment without the fear of getting hurt. Forming the Rasengan again, the sonorous vibration filled the air, creating a small whirlwind around him. Concentrating more intensely, he tried to control the amount of wind chakra. The sphere exploded again, but this time, Minato felt he was closer to completely controlling the jutsu. It was a shame his clones couldn't perform this jutsu at this time, as it required an astronomical amount of chakra, so much that he used clones only to train his Fuinjutsu. Again he concentrated, and the vibrant sound appeared once more in his hand, creating a gale around the area as the characteristics of the jutsu emerged for the third time. He maintained the flow of chakra to expand the sphere's power. Let's maintain this volume of chakra. Minato thought as the helices increased around the jutsu and the sound seemed even more vibrant. No, focus. At one moment, Minato felt the loss of control of the jutsu. The jutsu seemed to expand until it exploded again, even more powerful than the last time, creating a crater of debris in the middle of the area as dust rose. That was quite explosive. Minato admitted, observing the debris while his body emitted light where it should have been injured. As things calmed down, Minato was about to perform the jutsu again, but he felt something close to him. It's rude to spy on others, or do the Hyugas act like this now? Minato commented to no one in particular, smiling ironically. Hanabi emerged from the trees looking at him. You have senses as sharp as a Byakugan, as expected from the genius of this generation. She commented as if she were someone older and continued. I came here to train but ended up hearing a rather strange sound from afar and used my Byakugan to find my stalker from the last few days performing a quite interesting jutsu with his hands. She commented in a neutral tone. Stalker? I'd only looked once. Minato raised an eyebrow at her. Anyway, it seems like an interesting jutsu. But tell me one thing.
She looked at him with some interest.
Besides the jutsu, how did I see you glow and reappear in the middle of the training field?
She asked with a tone of curiosity. After all, she saw him using the power of the light fruit.
That's a jutsu I'm training. Minato tried to give an excuse.
I saw your body heal with light, and you didn't even seem injured. What the hell are you? She insisted, looking at him with a calculating gaze.
That's my secret. I'd prefer if you didn't meddle in others' affairs.
Minato spoke in a quite hostile tone. He didn't want to reveal about his Akuma no Mi. After all, it's an unknown power in the ninja world.
I understand, you're right, sorry about that.
In the end, she admitted she was being quite nosy.
Anyway, I'm leaving. Minato wanted to leave there to continue his training.
Wait. She stopped him.
HM? What is it? Minato looked at her suspiciously.
I saw with my Byakugan what you were doing. I can help you concentrate a certain amount of chakra without making your jutsu explode. She comments, suggesting she could help him. The boy looked at her for a few seconds. She had seen him use some of his hidden abilities, and she would see more of this with him trying to do the jutsu, but she had already seen that. What would be the point in hiding it? He thought it would be faster to learn with a Byakugan advising on the amount of chakra to prevent the jutsu from exploding and him getting used to it, so he agreed to it.
All right. I accept your help. He admitted. Chapter 59, Last Year 04. Third-person POV. Konoha, Year 36.
Minato began to concentrate his chakra again, creating a vortex of energy with wind chakra.
Keep more chakra flowing to your hands.
Hanabi commented a few meters away, watching Minato's jutsu attentively as her hair was thrown back by the wind. Hearing Hanabi, Minato continued to add more chakra. The sound grew more intense as he tried to maintain consistency.
That's too much, reduce the chakra flow a bit. She spoke while keeping the Byakugan on Minato's jutsu. I'm losing control.
Minato murmured as he saw his jutsu explode in his own hand.
Boom, *.
He was once again thrown back, getting up and returning to his spot as if nothing had happened. He received an intense look from Hanabi, since Minato didn't even have a scratch, but since this was the boy's secret in front of her, she kept her tongue tied. The attempts continued, and Minato tried to maintain an adequate chakra flow to create the jutsu without destabilizing it, under the guidance of someone with Byakugan. This lasted for hours, and at one point Minato started to get the hang of it.
I'm almost out of chakra, but I believe this is it. Minato commented, quite tired and with dirty clothes after so many explosions with debris and dust.
In his hand was a Rasengan with wind-style chakra spiraling around it in a mesmerizing manner. The sound was more unstable, but still sharp and loud, creating the same whirlwind.
Is this the jutsu you wanted to create?
Hanabi asked, looking at Minato's hand.
It's not ready yet. I need to get used to the stability and try to expand it, and now I'm out of chakra for that, but I've made great progress. It would take a week to do this if it weren't for you, so I owe you one. Minato spoke as he cancelled the jutsu.
You don't owe me a favor, I did it because I wanted to. She said softly with Minato raising an eyebrow. It's getting late, you haven't trained because of me, let me at least take you out to eat something. Minato suggested. He wouldn't be so ungrateful either.
Hanabi seemed uncertain. Come on, it's just ramen, it's the least I can do.
Minato had greatly improved his opinion of Hanabi. She went from an arrogant person with all that talk of destiny to someone friendly in Minato's terms, and he didn't want to owe her anything. I can't do that, my clan is quite strict about members going out in public places.
She commented. Minato raised an eyebrow and sighed.
How about coming to my place? I know how to make some really tasty food, how about that?
Minato tried another approach. If it's not too late. She commented, and Minato nodded.
Then let's go, you'll be the first person to eat my cooking, I hope you like it. Minato smiled. He had moved in a few days ago and despite having knowledge from another life, he had never made food for someone other than himself. Hanabi would be his first guinea pig. He and Hanabi jumped between trees and houses until they found Minato's apartment in a middle-class area. They entered the place and Minato welcomed her.
"Welcome to my little spot. Make yourself at home,"
he said as he took off his sandals. Hanabi just nodded, and Minato quickly began to take out pots from the cupboard and gather ingredients with 3 clones, while one started to prepare the fire with rice, another shredded some beef from the fridge, and another made a special sauce.
"Did you get this place from the village?" Hanabi broke the silence while watching Minato prepare dinner.
"Yes, the Hokage released it to me,"
Minato responded without looking at the girl. "So you left the orphanage then?" he commented, though obvious. Minato still asked, "You knew I was in an orphanage?"
"Of course, how could I not know about the greatest talent that has emerged since the village was founded? Everyone just talks about you, even in the Hyuga clan,"
she commented, sitting at the table. "Really?
I didn't know that even such a talkative clan would bring my name up for discussion,"
Minato joked.
"You talk as if you like your popularity," she murmured. "Less than you might think. It's true it opens many opportunities, but there are also many eyes on you too," Minato commented as he began to put the meat in the frying pan. "The world is full of geniuses, but few of them manage to survive," Minato concluded. "You're quite different from what I imagined," she murmured. "Why do you say that? You don't see how I act with others?" Minato asked, a bit confused. He always acted friendly and was never arrogant. "In fact, I have seen, but I never paid attention. I'm not a person who has friends, so everything for me is just thinking about getting stronger and not disappointing my family," she commented.
"That talk of destiny again?" Minato murmured, disliking that.
"In the Hyuga, we have our destiny marked from birth, from the moment we put this mark on our forehead," she said, showing the mark to Minato. He found her a beautiful girl, but that mark was repugnant, not that he blamed her for it. "You know, of all the clans in this village, the Hyuga are the ones I hate the most," Minato spoke disdainfully.
Hanabi didn't say anything but was surprised by Minato's words.
He continued to cook while the atmosphere turned silent. The only sound was of Minato cooking at that moment. He and his clones continued until he dispelled them, and only the original continued at the stove. With the main ingredients ready, Minato focused on the sauce. He combined fresh ingredients, balancing flavors to complement the shredded beef. A pinch of sugar to cut the acidity, a bit of soy sauce for depth, and a touch of garlic and ginger for an extra flavor. The aroma that began to fill the kitchen was inviting and promised a delicious dish. When everything was ready, Minato skillfully assembled the dishes. He placed a generous portion of rice on each plate, topped it with the shredded beef, and drizzled with the homemade sauce. The result was a visually appealing and aromatic dish that promised to satisfy any palate. He placed the dishes on the table, along with some chopsticks, and called Hanabi to join him. "I hope you like it," said Minato with a modest smile, but confident in the quality of the meal he prepared. Surprised by the smell of Minato's cooking, Hanabi joined him on the other side of the table. The first bite confirmed what the aroma promised. The dish was delicious. The meat was juicy and flavorful, the rice was just right, and the sauce tied all the flavors together harmoniously. Hanabi brought the fork full of meat and rice to her mouth, and the flavorful sensation quickly filled her mouth, making her eyes open wide. "What is this? I've never eaten anything like this before," she murmured, a bit dazed. "I'm glad you liked it," Minato commented with a smile, glad she enjoyed it. "Make yourself at home." Hanabi did not hesitate after the first forkful. The aroma and taste of Minato's food were so inviting that she began to eat with an enthusiasm she rarely showed. Each bite seemed better than the previous one. Minato looked satisfied and began to eat his part. Both ate in silence, though Hanabi seemed the noisier of the two as her fork clanked against the plate. She finally finished, repeating what Minato had left in the center of the table, and was satisfied in the end. She looked at Minato staring at her with a smile, and a blush appeared on her face. "Sorry about that," she said, embarrassed. "Relax, it's just us here, you can be at ease. I'm glad you liked my food, you're the first to try it," Minato commented with certain enthusiasm. "That was really good, I've never eaten anything like it," she said, still reminiscing the taste. "You're an excellent cook, Minato. Have you ever thought about leaving the life of a ninja to open a restaurant?" she asked with a smile, making a joke. "Ha ha. You even know how to make a joke."
Minato had to comment, and the girl seemed more embarrassed. Minato continued. But can you tell me about the taste you felt, the sensation? Minato asked some peculiar questions, and Hanabi, a bit hesitant on how to respond, started talking about what she thought.
Interesting, this is good, maybe a bit more salt and seasoning. While Hanabi was speaking, she didn't look at Minato, but now seeing the boy, she saw him jotting things down in a small notebook.
What's that? She asked curiously.
This is my recipe book. I like to mark down everything I do and get feedback. You're my first guinea pig, so it's good to hear your opinion.
I see.
Anyway, thanks for dinner, it's getting late and I better go, she said, standing up to leave.
Of course, you're welcome, Minato responded, walking her to the door. Until next time. Don't you want me to walk you to the Hyuga compound?
He asked at the door. It wasn't late, but it was already night.
No,
I can go by myself, anyway, thanks for everything, she said a bit timidly.
Sure, what are friends for?
Minato commented at the end, leaving her a bit surprised, and she started to walk quickly to her home, leaving Minato a bit surprised and confused by that.
Why did she leave so hurriedly?
He scratched his head.
Young people these days.
Minato heard a voice, and on the other side of the apartment, a lady appeared at the door.
HM? Hello? Minato was once again confused by this woman. This is the second woman you've brought home. These young people are so active these days. She commented with a little laugh. I'm 11 years old. Can't you see I'm a child?
He murmured to the clueless woman as he tried to close the door. If I were about 40 years younger, I'd make you fall in love with me, handsome boy. The old woman commented with a toothless smile at Minato while licking her lips and staring at Minato like prey.
Who is this crazy woman?
Even if she were 40 years younger, she'd still be old. He screamed in his mind and quickly closed the door, thinking he had moved into a place with a lecherous neighbor. That night, Minato created a clone to stand guard at the door.
What? You want me to stand guard while you sleep? That's unfair.
The clone complained.
Just do it. It's a matter of our dignity, Minato ordered, leaving no room for negotiation. Meanwhile, Hanabi entered the clan's compound. I'm home, she announced. Hanabi. Did you sneak out to train outside the clan again? But why so late? An elder appeared. Hello, Grandpa. I made a friend. I think, she said, a bit surprised. A friend? That's new. I hope you're not too strict. It's good to relax a bit.
The old man had the Uchiha clan's eye and was quite old, but he looked at his granddaughter somewhat happily that she had mentioned making a friend, which was new.
I'll try,
she murmured and went to her Japanese bed. She couldn't help but dwell on Minato's last words.
Friend, so this is what it's like to have one,
she murmured a bit before falling asleep.
Raccoon here. What do you think, is Hanabi's development too rushed? Chapter 60, last year 05. Third-person POV. Konoha, year 36.
The next day, being the more practical squid, Minato had arrived early, taking his place beside Makoto, while Kushina and Suna joined the table next to them, forming a small group.
They conversed normally among themselves when Hanabi Hyuga entered the room.
She walked to her usual spot, beside Makoto at the end of the table where Uchiha and Minato sat. Good morning, Minato, she approached and said with a slight blush as she sat at the table. Makoto, Kushina, and Suna paused their conversation and looked at the girl oddly, while Minato responded with a welcoming smile.
Good morning, Hanabi. How are you?
I'm fine, she said, turning her attention to the notebook she just opened. The group watched the exchange, visibly surprised. Kushina and Suna exchanged looks, while Makoto raised an eyebrow, as Hanabi had always been quite quiet and antisocial to the girls. Her taking the initiative to talk to Minato was a big surprise to the girls.
Since when are you two so close? Suna couldn't help but ask quietly.
We met by chance, she helped me with the training I was doing, Minato commented. He didn't mention the dinner because that could lead to wrong thoughts.
This earned some pretty sharp looks for the boy. Minato just smiled and continued with his things as class began as soon as Professor Fuma entered the room.
The day was normal, with some fights and exercises as everyone demonstrated their ability with the new jutsus until, at the end, as soon as Minato left the academy and went to his training space, but not alone, Kushina was following him with a clone, which Minato found really strange for the girl to think she could bypass his observation haki.
What is this?
She couldn't hold back and approached while he was making a small raisin shuriken with one hand.
This is my new jutsu I'm working on.
I created that A rank jutsu, now I'm trying to make it enter S rank by adding nature chakra to it, Minato spoke, though his voice was a bit muffled by the sharp sound of the raisin shuriken.
That's amazing, did that Hanabi help with this?
She asked a bit displeased.
True, she used the Byakugan quite usefully, Minato spoke and cancelled the jutsu while looking at Kushina with a playful look. You're not jealous, are you? Who's jealous of you, Databane? Kushina immediately turned red and tried to hit Minato with a punch, but the ninja was faster. Ha ha ha. Hey, Kushina. Why don't you come with your original to my house? I can prepare a special ramen for you, how about it? Minato suggested. You cook? She asked a bit surprised. I've never made ramen, but I have the recipe, how about you come and try? Alright. Kushina yelled, turning a bit red at the idea of going to Minato's house for dinner.
She soon dispelled her jutsu, leaving Minato alone and a bit confused. Seeing that she had left, he continued his training until the moment he went home.
He found Kushina quite dressed up for a casual dinner but didn't complain. You look very beautiful, Kushina. Let's go in.
I'll take a shower before preparing something for us to eat, Minato spoke calmly, as Kushina blushed at his comment and saw him entering, following him shortly after. After cleaning all the dust from his training, Minato returned to the kitchen while preparing dinner for awaiting Kushina. She seemed so embarrassed that Minato turned his attention to her with a slightly raised eyebrow.
Are you okay, Kushina? You're so quiet. He commented. I'm fine, just hungry. She commented.
Minato didn't know, but for her, being with the boy she had learned to love over the last few years, alone in his house, was quite disconcerting.
Minato didn't care much after she said that and went back to cooking his seasoned spaghetti.
He had picked up a recipe book in a bookstore, hoping he would get it right the first time making this kind of food. Finishing his dish, the aroma began to fill the atmosphere of the kitchen.
That smells so good, Databane. Even a quite embarrassed Kushina had to admit this out loud. I'm glad you like the smell, it's almost ready. Let's try it and see if it really turned out good.
Minato said as he finished his dish, placing it on the table.
Kushina and Minato began to serve themselves. Kushina seemed quite excited as she twirled the spaghetti on her chopsticks and put it in her mouth to taste. This is so good, Minato!
She exclaimed joyfully.
Really, I didn't think it would turn out this good since it's my first time making this dish. Minato commented, pleased, enjoying the taste of his own cooking.
Kushina ate her bowl and quickly went for seconds and thirds until she was really satisfied, and Minato also ate a second bowl with satisfaction.
This really was good. Kushina said, now a bit embarrassed thinking she might have overdone it and Minato could have a bad impression of her. I'm glad you liked it, I didn't even know I could be such a great cook. Minato admitted, but was happy that Kushina enjoyed it.
They talked a bit more before Minato took Kushina home. After he left her at the Senju complex, he returned to his apartment and encountered that old lady again.
A third girl, is there a place for me in this too? She said as Minato quickly entered and didn't respond, just making another clone that complained just as much as the night before. Minato's cooking wasn't just with Kushina and Hanabi, as the next day while he was training and sending a clone to school, he was approached by Tsuna and Makoto demanding his cooking.
Minato had no choice but to take them to his apartment, making a barbecue for the girls, who seemed to love the food and ate as much as the last two. The woman showed up again at the end of the night and made more comments about Minato not being satisfied with just one woman.
Minato. The next day, Minato was approached by a shadow while he was sitting at his desk. Choza was looking at him like a hawk. Hello, Choza, what can I do for you? Minato commented, feeling a bad premonition about this. I'm thinking of having a dinner at your house, would you like to attend? She asked. Minato didn't know how to respond, wondering if he had heard right. What kind of question is that? Suna wanted to hit Chozo with that. Come on Minato, I invite you to go to your house, to make the dinner everyone says you can create. He said excitedly. Okay. Minato said. A rumor of Minato being a great cook began to circulate in the classroom, and people who had never spoken to him before started coming up to ask for food. Minato was really having his worst time at the academy, but in the end, he took more than 10 people to his apartment that day and made a big barbecue, something everyone ended up loving. With Minato wondering how his cooking could be so special, he seemed to do just the normal. Minato didn't go to class the next day and went to a training field he usually didn't visit, where Hanabi was training. Hello. Minato greeted her. Minato? She looked at him curiously. You just greet me every day, I thought you would come to my house yesterday like everyone else. Minato asked. He usually wouldn't care about the girl, but he seemed to care about this Hyuga after hearing a bit of her story and her thoughts. I thought I wouldn't be welcome. She admitted. Well, you thought wrong, after all, aren't we friends? The house is mine too. Minato spoke. She seemed lost and looked at Minato a bit seriously. Are we really friends? I don't think we are friends like that, just acquaintances. She said. Why can't it seem so simple? Friends like being in each other's presence and they help each other. To me, that defines a friendship. I like you, Hanabi, even though I find your concept of destiny that you seem to say you're trapped in stupid, you still helped me. Minato spoke. You speak as if I could escape from my prison. She speaks with disdain suddenly. She might be surprised by Minato's words, but when she heard that he spoke as if she had a choice, she really got angry. Let's do it this way, then, I'll free you from that destiny, I will have that mark on your forehead removed from you. Minato spoke firmly, making the girl really shocked by those words. You can't be serious. You can't change the Hyuga clan, my destiny is to serve the main family. She said with a somber tone. Well. Minato smiled and his body turned into light. He appeared in front of her in an instant before she could react. I'm Minato Namikaze, the man who will do extraordinary things in this world and put my name in the history of this world. Not even a Kage will stop me or even a village, much less a clan. Mark my words, in a few years I will end this tradition of the Hyuga clan and remove that mark from your forehead. After all, what are friends for? Minato commented, leaving the girl wide-eyed. It wasn't a surprise that Minato didn't like the Hyuga clan and he planned to remove it when he became Hokage, but now that he had met Hanabi and saw how this ideology had been ingrained in the girl's mind, he decided to act in the coming years. That wraps up this part of What If Transmigrated as Minato Namikaze. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Quick reminder. What If Natsu Had Dual Elements will be going on hold soon, since we've nearly caught up with the author. I'd love to do another poll to decide our next project, but unfortunately, due to my travel plans, I won't be able to start a new series until the end of December if we go that route. So instead, I've decided that the series which came in second place in the last poll will be our next project. That means the series replacing What If Natsu Had Dual Elements will be What If Transmigrated into One Piece and Became a Marine? Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.